Everybody, this is Rob Kientz with the Freedom Report, and I'm here with a very important first-time guest on the program. It's 𝙁𝙁𝙀𝙀, CEO of Goldback. He's here to talk about his journey into gold, how he got into it, and the product that he has, which I think you guys would be interested in. You guys that are in my audience that like the physical product, but may be wary of how you actually exchange gold and silver and how to do that. Jeremy and his team have come up with an interesting idea that I love, but I want to bring it to you, and we're going to ask lots of questions and kind of get the details on all of that. Real quick, if you guys are interested, I'll put up on screen the website. This is the About page where you can meet the team. Of course, Jeremy is up here and the rest of his team is here. And just simply go to goldback.com if you're interested in buying Goldbacks or learning more about the company. Jeremy, welcome to the program and thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate being here.
So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because you've got a very interesting product, and I know you have one there. If you want to hold it up and show people, you know, what the Goldback actually looks like.
Yeah, I got a few here. This is a stack of 100 of them.
Okay. Really beautiful design, and we'll get into like how you make those and everything. But I wanted to get into kind of why you got into gold. So give us, you know, a couple of minutes on where you got into gold and why it was important to you.
No, absolutely. I was introduced to gold back in 2011. I was a young guy and I got sucked into the Ron Paul campaign. I was actually a delegate for Ron Paul. And, you know, Ron Paul talked a lot about sound money and how we needed sound money. And it really fascinated me. So my introduction to gold was more as this should be money. Not, you know, you should get this collectible coin or, you know, you should stack bullion. It was, how do you make gold money? And I've been in that space just about ever since.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of stackers, when you originally start off, you buy your American Gold Eagles, Silver Eagles, Maples, that kind of thing. You go your generic rounds and bars, and that seems to be the quote unquote standard. The problem with that is, how do you interchange it? How do you use it as money? How do you circulate? A lot of people kind of put it in their mattress or in a safe, or maybe they even go to a storage program, which is fine. But if it's not circulating, it's not money, is it? And then we're not really adhering to Gresham's law and how all that works. So, you know, why is it important that we circulate it? Why can't people just stick it in the backyard, you know, bury it in the ground or whatever?
You know, it kind of depends what your goal is. Most precious metals, the way it's talked about and the way it's been sold for 50 years, as it's described as kind of like a bunker for your wealth, right? You can hide in the bunker, you know, when the bombs go off. You know, if there's a big, you know, really fast financial collapse, right? You want to have a safe spot for your wealth, but just like a bunker, you don't plan on living in your bunker for the rest of your life. Right? It's not even really designed for that. It's to survive the storm and then come out and then do whatever the next thing is.
Right.
So, you know, people will buy, say, you know, ounces of gold, ounces of silver. The intent is to dodge inflation, is to dodge a collapse, and then buy into whatever a new system is. And that's how it's described. But the gold and the silver isn't the system. And part of the reason why is it's really hard to use. And there's not a lot of confidence that, you know, as you mentioned, there's not a lot of confidence that what you have or what maybe somebody else has, you know, someone you don't know, that, you know, their stuff is real. You know, you can go on Alibaba right now and you can buy worn out looking mercury dimes for 10 cents a piece. And they're fake, right? You know, so they're even faking junk silver now. So if you don't know the silver that you're bartering with is real and our market's getting flooded with fakes, you know, how are you supposed to, you know, use and trust that as money? It's a huge problem.
Yeah, a couple of things I want to point out there. As a coin shop owner for a while, I did that for about a year and a half. Well, we saw fake silver Morgans, we saw fake Mexican onzas, we saw all sorts of fake stuff, even in the silver, which is cheaper, which surprised me because at some point you would think they would focus on the higher end products, the more known products like gold, especially like American Eagle. But what I think the counterfeiters found it more profitable to do these lesser ones because people had their guard down. Like who thinks somebody's going to fake a mercury dime? But if you can do this in the millions and slowly inject it into society, what you're essentially creating, it's kind of like what the Fed is doing. You know, they create a dollar, the first person that gets that dollar receives the benefit, and then it goes out. And then when people realize it's less worth less, and that also could reduce confidence in that market as well. So yeah, fakes are a big part of it. The other piece of it is, if you don't circulate, how can it be money? And so the concept that we're going to stick it in our bunkers, as you mentioned, maybe we're preppers, or maybe we just have a safe or whatever, and we're all prepping for the day. I think that's the common thread. But if we're prepping for that day, then how bad does it have to get to where we can actually use it, because we haven't put it into circulation? Shouldn't we be putting this in circulation now?
Yeah, no, it's a fair question. You know, if you go around, there's a lot of concern. There's a lot of people that are worried about, say, central bank digital currencies, and, you know, the cashless society. You know, no one wants to take cash anymore. Everyone wants to have you on your credit card. They want to move to this cashless society where everything you do is tracked and nothing is private. And, you know, there's influencers, and some really big influencers, and they push back and they say, no, we need to use cash. We need to use cash more. Use cash every Friday. Actually use cash every day of the week. Never not use cash if you can't. And, you know, you imagine what that looks like from the perspective of a central banker. I mean, either way, you're using their product. Right? I mean, cash is a central bank product. It's a Federal Reserve note. And, you know, if you're skeptical of the Federal Reserve note, you're skeptical of central banking, you don't trust it, you know, using cash, maybe that's your best option. But really what we're trying to explore with the Goldback is we're trying to give people options outside of the central bank system, where you can transact with your neighbors, you can transact in your community, you can transact with local business owners for gold. And we're finding that about half of small business owners, when you talk to the decision maker, are willing to take gold as payment for goods and services, which is far higher than we ever thought it would be.
Yeah, and I see that because what happens is business owners inherently know inflation's killing them. I was a business owner. Costs go up. I have multiple businesses. Costs go up, and it eats at, and you have to, you know, you have employees, and you have benefits, and you have all of your inputs into your business, and all of a sudden profit margins are shrinking. And you see that even on the big scale. You see that with the big corporations coming out with reduced earnings, cutting wages. I mean, at the macro scale in the US, things are really tightening up and getting tight. And so that, to me, is the argument that we need gold and silver out in the marketplace right now, because that is true money. It's constitutional money. But then I want to get in the constitutional argument with you for a second. Is Goldback's money, is it safe to use as money? Is it based on where you live? How should we view that? Because wouldn't the Fed see that as a threat, and wouldn't they say, oh, we need to get rid of that?
You know, if Goldbacks came out 20 years ago, I think we would have ran into a lot more stiff opposition from the government. The truth is that, you know, cryptocurrency now it's like got like $1 trillion market cap. And a lot of the same agencies within the government that are worried about, you know, potential competitors to the dollar and alternatives to the dollar, a lot of their ammunition's focused on the crypto space. It's actually made a really great environment for developing the Goldback. But before we ever made a single Goldback, we wanted to create a great legal structure for it. So I'm going to show you one right here. On the bottom of every Goldback, I don't know if you can read that or not. No. Yeah. No. I'll just read it for you. It says 1/1000th of a troy ounce of 24 karat gold, exchangeable by Goldback Inc. in U.S. gold coin to bearer on demand. So really what these are is they're like coupons for U.S. minted gold eagles, which are federal legal tender. So tying the Goldback into gold coins that are produced not by the Federal Reserve, but by the U.S. Mint, we're tying into an existing gold standard that we have that isn't very usable. So the Goldback, in that sense, is a complementary currency, and it's legal to use in every state.
Interesting. So, and I don't think gold and silver was ever made illegal in terms of currency. I think when they did the Federal Reserve, they just interpreted the dollar that it could be cash bills. So there's an argument to be made that gold and silver is still currency, even though the feds may come down on you for trying to impersonate it. What's your view on that?
Maybe. I mean, there is a federal statute. It's a federal law, not a state law, because it's legal to use in every state, but it's legal to use under state law.
Right.
There's a federal law that makes it a felony to make and circulate, for the purpose of circulation, any metal-based money. So it's incredibly important that you have, unless otherwise authorized by law. So, we're following the under otherwise authorized by law path. So they have tried to make it hard to use gold and silver as money. I mean, obviously you can barter with it, but you won't see coin dealers pushing their rounds out as current money.
Right.
You can barter with a bag of rice, right? I mean, you can barter with toilet paper. So yes,
and boy, that happened during 2020 quite a bit. So
it definitely did. So yeah, we tried to solve a few problems with the Goldback. The first is the counterfeit problem. Goldbacks have never been counterfeited. You're looking at millions of dollars worth of equipment to make a Goldback. You're looking at about a decade plus of tinkering around to make it even look like this. We're constantly adding new anti-counterfeiting features to stay ahead of counterfeiters. So next year we're adding blacklight, UV activated images on the back of Goldbacks to make them even harder to counterfeit. And then the other thing that we do, and you mentioned this earlier, is we solve that interchangeability problem, where if you have a 1 ounce gold coin, a 1 ounce gold coin is not equal in value to 10 10th ounce gold coins. Right? So even if you wanted to use gold coins, which say they're $2,500 a piece, the 10th ounce coin is $300. So the smaller you go with gold, the higher that premium goes. And if you're using 1 ounce and 10th ounce coins together, those premiums don't interchange, and it makes it very, very difficult to use, even if you did trust that they were real. And, so Goldbacks, this guy has 10 times the amount of gold as a single Goldback. So it's 100th of an ounce. This guy's worth about $50. This guy's worth about $5. Has a 10th the amount of gold, 10th the amount of cost is the 10. So it's an interchangeable cash-like form of gold, which makes it easy to use as,
so fungible, divisible, that type of thing.
Fungible, divisible. Yep.
Yeah, and that was, as a coin shop owner, and he's as a coin collector and a guy that still goes to coin shows and a stacker for, 15 years now. When people would come in, they say, I want to trade. And I eventually had a no trade policy because what would happen is people would come in and trade lower premium products for higher premium or vice versa. And the math didn't work out. Like, I just want to trade you X amount of silver for gold or X amount of small gold for big gold. And they didn't understand premiums. So I want to get in the premium discussion with you first, but I want to, from an anecdotal perspective, people don't understand premiums. People do not understand supply chain. They do not understand relative scarcity on products. They don't understand artificially inflated demand with things like American Silver Eagles, which is done by the U.S. Mint on purpose, according to the guy that still works there that created the American Silver Eagle program, came on a YouTube show and said as much. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on where if you're dealing with coins, it's very difficult to interchange them and to have anybody understand what the exchange rates are. Those exchange rates aren't posted. You don't see that everywhere. And so it becomes almost this negotiable discussion you're having with your local coin dealer, and then people go to 5 coin dealers and they spend all this time doing it. That's not conducive to an economy. You can't run an economy that way, because you have a dollar bill is a dollar bill everywhere.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's definitely an argument for doing it in like the Goldback form. But I wanted to ask you about the premiums. Premiums are higher on Goldbacks, like per ounce or measure of gold, than they would be in coins and bars. Why is that the case? Why should somebody want to pay higher premiums for that versus, going and buying a coin or a bar or whatnot?
No, it's a fair question. And if you watch any YouTube video on Goldbacks, it's a common thing. Oh, I love everything about the Goldback. If only they sold it for, melt or 5% over melt, I'd be on board. If you look at a 10th ounce gold eagle, you're looking at between a 20 and 30% premium. Sometimes they sell a little bit more than that. And the reason why there's a premium on a 10th ounce coin isn't because they're ripping you off. It's that the cost of making a coin aren't different when you go to a 10th of an ounce. If it costs $30 or $40 to mint a coin, that same cost is still there. And if you go down to a 1/20th of an ounce, you see an even bigger premium because, again, you know, you're not saving on the minting costs by going smaller necessarily. Now, Goldback is a lot smaller than most gold products. It used to be that when you went that small, if you're doing half a grain of gold, which is about 1/1000th of an ounce, you'd be looking at there's one product that has 680% premium. If you wanted to get it wholesale, if you wanted to get it really, really tamped down, the cheapest way you could buy that quantity of gold was about a 280% premium. We were able to get the cost down for an individual unit, and keep in mind a coin is, you know, $40 to $50 for an individual unit for minting costs. We're able to get an individual Goldback down to just over $1 for producing a Goldback. And, you know, that's $1 to get something that is unique, has a unique serial number, it's 1/1000th of an ounce. And that brought the premium down from 280% from something this size to, you know, right around 100%. So it's about double spot. You might say, well, why pay double spot? You know, why not just get spot? And I'd say that premium sticks no matter what the gold price does. You know, the value of the Goldback has gone from $2 to $5 over the last 5 years. And I suspect that, you know, if the price of gold doubles again, you're still going to have about that 100% premium on Goldback. So you're not losing value versus owning other forms of gold. It's better to think of the Goldback as having a value as opposed to a premium. And the same is true with cash, really. I mean, if you look at cash, it costs 14 cents to make a $100 bill. And the people that scoff at Goldback premiums will get $100 bills that costed 14 cents to make, right? And they do that
because it doesn't have gold in it.
It doesn't have any gold
underlying value other than linen and ink.
And there's no floor.
Yeah.
Well, it's the validity not even of the U.S. government. It's the validity of the Federal Reserve System.
Yeah.
Right. It's backed by you. The fact that you take $100 bills backs the $100 bill. So you're backing the Fed. You're supporting the Fed. You're changing your labor for, you know, and people that are using Goldbacks, they, you know, there's collectors and there's people that want to own them just because they're neat. But a lot of folks are circulating Goldbacks because they want to do something else. And the fact is we've sold over $100 million worth of Goldbacks, and the market has determined that the value of a Goldback right now is about $5. So it's, you know, that's why that's the value.
Yeah.
And we're really proud of, you know, in terms of premium, how cheap we were able to get it out there. We don't make anywhere near as much money on these things as people think. The one Goldback is still manufactured at a loss today. And that's been true for about 5 years. We've been very careful to make these as good a deal as we possibly can for users.
Yeah. And I wanted to point out that if people that focus only on the very narrow band of like American Silver Eagles, we very recently had almost 100% premium on them due to artificial supply constraints. Because the U.S. Mint said they only wanted to mint so many, which by law they have to mint as many as the public demands, and they never do. And then the spot price is like $21, and then you bought the Eagle for $45. You had over 100% premium. That happened, I guess, about a year and a half-ish ago. So premiums exist on lots of products. It's like you said, it's the value. Did you get any more value for American Silver Eagle paying double spot? No. And it certainly didn't make it any more tradable. What it did was it caused a bunch of people to buy them and then lose money at the end of the day because it didn't hold that value.
Right. If the premium is not consistent, if the American Silver Eagle always had a 30% premium, then it has a higher value. But, you know, the premiums on Silver Eagles are volatile. Sometimes they're 70% and sometimes they're 10% and sometimes they're 100%. And that makes it a lot less stable, you know, whereas the Goldback, the premiums are always about double spot. So if gold doubles, your Goldbacks double. You know,
yeah, I like to say that the U.S. Mint has made the American Eagle basically Bitcoin because the premiums go like this, and so the price goes like this, and it's the single most dangerous product you can buy in bullion, but it's the #1 most demanded. So I guess people like paying high premiums and they like speculating. So if they do, I don't understand you know,
You hear something fun?
Yeah.
Last year, we sold more Goldbacks than the U.S. Mint sold Gold Eagles.
That doesn't surprise me at all because they can see the value. So let's talk about a little bit more into, I want to get into like your philosophy, because at the beginning you mentioned Ron Paul and gold and everything. Why gold for you? Why not go into crypto? Why not do all of these things? What's the value in gold for you, and why you put so much time and energy into creating this product for people?
You know, that's a great question. I actually started in crypto. So in
Okay.
2018, we did a gold cryptocurrency because I like gold, right? I wanted to do a cryptocurrency, and we took a 1 ounce US Gold Eagle and we split it into 1,000 pieces. That sounds familiar. And the idea was that people could transact with gold, and I was going to live stream the holdings, and people could see the gold that was backing the crypto. And I'd go to these shows, and you know what my number one comment was on my cryptocurrency?
What?
You don't hold it, you don't own it. It's not that I don't trust you, Jeremy. It's I don't trust the government. If you hit $1 billion worth of your gold crypto, I don't trust the government won't roll in with a tank and kill all of you and take all the gold, and my token will be worthless. And, you know, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. I heard it hundreds and hundreds of times. So when I came across the manufacturing company for the Goldback, you know, and this is wealth in hand. This is, you know, the gold is, you have it. That solved that problem for people, because I could say, hey, you know, guess what? We took 1 ounce of gold, we split it into 1,000 spendable pieces. And by the way, there's thousands of businesses that take these as payment. Half of those small businesses owners that I mentioned, they don't shy away from taking Goldbacks as payment. They do very well, especially with, I mean, they do well with people that have never, you know, owned gold before. You know, people tend to want the Goldback. So it solved that problem that we had in crypto where, you know, people didn't really trust it. They didn't trust the grid. They didn't trust the, you know, the commodity backing. I think that, and it's not to say that crypto doesn't have a place or that they don't have a great argument or that there aren't people making a lot of money on crypto and that there's not a future for crypto. But I think there's something to be said for having something that's a commodity currency, that's a cash-like product that's in your hand. You know, if the internet goes down, if you forget your 40-digit password, you know, if, you know, whatever, you know, you can have this and you can spend this. And, you know, what would you rather have? Would you rather have a single 10th ounce gold eagle that nobody's sure is real? Or would you want to be able to spend gold 100 times over in $5 increments, you know, to anybody? And yeah, I've spent Goldback hundreds, if not thousands of times. Like, I've had maybe 2 people that have ever come at me and said, oh, well, what's the melt value of gold right now? I'll give you the melt value. You know, people understand that this has a value, not a premium. You know, if it's worth $5 and, you know, it says $5 on goldback.com, they'll take it at $5, you know, and not even question it. And they shouldn't, you know, because it is a very cheap way to get, you know, gold in this format.
Yeah, and I think there's an argument to be made if gold goes to what a lot of gold holders think it'll go to. If you have a 1 ounce coin, you're going to be buying a city block with it, and it's not interchangeable in a common sense of going and buying groceries or going and buying furniture. Also, a quick anecdote for you. A couple of weeks ago, an organization I'm with, C4SM, Citizens for Sound Money, I'm a board member there, and we went to the Bitcoin conference, you know, just reaching out and talking to people, and we took some Goldbacks. And we went to the bazaar at the back of the networking center at Bitcoin where they have all the vendors. And we started handing out Goldbacks and buying merchandise. And typically, they only wanted to take Bitcoin, but we hand them the Goldback. We said, hey, look at this. It's got gold in it. And they started taking the Goldbacks for the merchandise. So I think that you can take a crypto person, you can hand them a Goldback, explain what it is and the value of it, and they'll take it and say, okay, I'll take some of these. I want some of these. Because they realize, yeah, I've got now something in my hand. I don't have to get on my phone or get in my exchange or whatever, use my cold wallet to send the Bitcoin. I can just hand this out.
Right.
So even crypto people were very open to that concept.
You can do a transaction in seconds instead of minutes. And there's hundreds of cryptos out there, right? Yeah. So I'll give you another one. There's a festival in New Hampshire called Pork Fest. It's big, thousands of people. And these guys were early crypto adopters back in 2012, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could buy anything at PorcFest with Bitcoin. And, you know, a lot of different cryptocurrencies have gone through PorcFest. You know, they're very accepting of alternative currencies there. So 3 years ago, Goldback started making their way to PorcFest. And in the first year, you know, you saw some Goldback use. By the second year that they were there, it was about 50-50, where people were reporting that half their transactions were in Goldbacks and the other half was in these variety of cryptos. And this one's anecdotal because it comes from one guy at PorcFest. He said that he did over 100 transactions at PorcFest selling a book. Care to guess how many of those transactions were in Goldbacks versus crypto this year?
I'd say at least 2 to 1, right?
He had 1 crypto transaction and over 100 Goldback transactions.
Yeah, I can see that. Goldbacks is a lot like cash. People are very familiar with that. If you're more, I think if you're in the older generations and you appreciate physical money, I think the Goldback is perfect for you. When we were at PorcFest and we walked around, there's people that come and sell food and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Cash and Goldbacks to me were the number one way people were taking it. I personally did not see a lot of crypto transactions, mm-hmm. cash and Goldbacks. And I think people inherently want the Goldback because they know it's going to be worth more. If, let's say you buy a Goldback now for $5 and gold price goes up where we think it's going to be, you're not, first of all, you're not worried about any premium you're paying over spot anyway.
Right. Well, the premium sticks. So you're getting that value either way. The mm-hmm. Goldback has more than doubled in price in 5 years. Yeah. So nobody's been hurt on getting the Goldback ever. So it's great that you could see it. You know, it's really getting a lot of grassroots adoption and people are understanding it. Yeah, I mentioned this the other day. We have a calculator on Goldback.com where you can use it to calculate how many Goldbacks you owe somebody. Mm-hmm. You know, right now the price happens to be at $5, but when it's at, you know, $4.63, it's a little harder to do in your head sometimes. If you're going to buy something big. So we have this calculator. That calculator in the last year was used over 70,000 times.
Yeah.
So we know people are using Goldbacks. We know people are transacting with them. We don't know how much. Most of the times I transact with a Goldback, I'm not using the calculator. So we know that these are actually circulating. They're not just sitting in people's basements waiting for doomsday. People are using gold as money today with Goldbacks.
Okay. So I guess to end up the interview, first of all, thanks for providing all that information. It's another way for people to use gold and silver that kind of solves the problem of taking your ounces, sticking it in the basement. One, not circulating, making it money, but two, not knowing how to trade different products within the gold space. It's very hard. And especially when you get into old coins and collectibles, people just, the average person just can't handle the amount of information you need to know to transact in traditional specie, gold and silver coins, collectible coins. It's very difficult. This is a much easier way because you've got standard units, fungible, all that kind of stuff. So for people who may be interested, if they're watching this, we've got, audience members all over the world who can get a hold of Goldbacks, and how do they do it?
A great place to go is goldback.com. We highlight the 15 top sellers of Goldbacks there. Some of them take crypto, some of them ship worldwide. There's different pros and cons to all of them, but I'd start at goldback.com. Look at our buyers list.
Yeah. And do you guys plan to expand like your state list and eventually work your way, across the US?
Oh, absolutely. We're looking at adding, maybe 2 or 3 states next year. Okay. We haven't done a whole lot this year, but we have done a whole lot of prep. So next year should be really big.
Well, I will say this, everybody I've talked to about, your expansion says that you guys are running literally as fast as you can, and that the demand exceeds the supply. And I've talked to several people involved. So definitely there is a demand there. I know that for sure, that there is a huge demand there for your product.
And with what's going on in the market right now, and, the kind of the bumps in the road of the stock market, if you want to call it that, every time the market gets scared, there's not a lot of physical Goldbacks out there. 100 million is a very small market, even in the precious metal space. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't take a huge run for all the Goldbacks to disappear. Yeah. We just got the largest sale of Goldbacks ever yesterday. It was a multi-million-dollar sale.
Wow.
You know, and we're seeing, I don't want to say it's a run on Goldbacks, but we're seeing a huge uptick right now. And we are in a position where we think we can supply the market with enough Goldbacks. But it is tricky to produce them. There is a bit of a bottleneck. For the first 4 years of the project, we couldn't make enough. The last year, it's been a lot better in terms of supply. We've put a lot of investment into making sure we can get enough, because we want to be able to, you know, if we can't get enough out to the market, it doesn't help very much.
Oh, sorry, I had one last question. So how do you get the gold in the bill? Just explain like the science of it just real quick. How do people know there's gold in there, and can you take the gold out, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's a process called vacuum deposition. It's the same process that puts a layer of gold in Oakley sunglasses or windows or microchips or space helmets. So it's very, very high tech. So we have a polymer that rolls through the machine. It gets sprayed with this gold that's being produced by it's like a big 50-pound target of gold that's getting hit with plasma. So there's a plasma field, and gold's rolling through it, and we can measure, you know, very precisely how much gold is going on the polymer. And then it gets sandwiched in between 2 layers. So there's 2 layers in the Goldback. There's the front layer, there's the back layer that protects the gold in it. Every single batch of Goldbacks is third-party verified that we have enough gold. We actually put a little bit too much gold in there just because we never want to be short. And we've also got, you know, other third-party auditors that come in and, you know, melt batches of Goldbacks to verify the contents.
All right. Awesome. Thanks so much, Jeremy, for popping on. We appreciate it. And thanks for creating a product that we can actually circulate gold and silver, because the kick I've been on the last few years is it's great to have your stash. You're going to have to circulate, or, you know, the government's going to win. They're going to put the CBDCs in place and we lose. At some point, all of us gold and silver bugs need to actually transact in gold and silver.
And this is, I mean, if you go out and you buy a stack of 100, I mean, you can educate everybody in your community. Nobody dislikes Goldbacks. You know, across the whole political spectrum, every age group, you pull out a Goldback, people want these. And it is a powerful, powerful way to introduce people to sound money and wake people up to what's happening with inflation, what's happening with our economic system. Goldbacks have already been seen by over, you know, we think tens of millions of people now. So they're making their way around. They're waking people up, and most people that own Goldbacks are young. It's not just the older generation. It's people. It's millennials. It's Gen Z that own and use and are understanding Goldback. So there's a lot of ways to get
mine all the time. They love the design, and they know. I've taught them about gold, but they know, they see the bill and they're like, "Ooh, I can use this. It's not just a pretty coin."
Yeah, no, they get it.
No, and they steal them from me.
Right? No, yeah, no. That young people get it. They understand Bitcoin. They understand that things have a value. They don't really understand the race to the bottom premium mentality that's been taught to older generations forever in precious metals, and they want them, and that makes Goldbacks fantastic money.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy, so much for stopping by. We'll have you on again, and good luck in your endeavors. I think we're all, you know, hoping that it goes well. We need this solution. I'm glad you guys took the time to get out there and create it and market it and do all the stuff that you're doing.
Well, we wouldn't be successful if it wasn't for thousands of grassroots people signing up their businesses on goldback.com and buying Goldbacks and spreading them around and getting involved. So that's absolutely key. So thanks for having me here.
Yeah, no problem. All right.